Hello there, Blackbright at the controls. Yes, I am Blackbright and I am broadcasting out of the UK, bringing some darkness into the light and opening up some thoughts and feelings about what kind of things happening in our personal lives. And I'm sure that, some of what I talk about, it will resonate with some of you because we all experience similar circumstances, regardless of how intelligent we are, regardless of how educated we are, regardless of our background, we all have similar experiences. And so I thought I would talk about this subject because it's a bit tricky, really. It is seen as a negative. Playing games is always seen as a negative. But we have to understand why people play games, whether or not they're justified in playing games. What is the motive of playing games? I mean, when you think of games, just the name game, it's about interaction, it's goal oriented. You can't play a game without another person. The way you play the game is how you influence the outcome. There's all of those dynamics in game playing. So let's not look at it totally as a negative, even though it can frustrate you and make you feel so angry. We have to understand those who are playing games are seeking validation. They are trying to protect themselves. They're trying to suss out whether or not that person really cares about them. So it's their way. It's a silly way and an immature way because they could just as well ask the person, but they don't really want to because they'll see that as feeling a bit insecure. So they play little games hoping to get a result. Sometimes it's counterproductive. Sometimes it backfires. Games, it's not good to play games because if somebody catches on to the game and they don't let you know what that they call on, you are a loser. You will lose because what will happen is that game is not going to give you the outcome that you expect, and you're not going to be able to suss that person out, which is the whole point of playing the game. The whole point of playing a game is to suss someone out, to see if they're genuine, to see if they've got your back, to see whether or not you can rely on them, to see whether or not they care about you, to see whether or not they're a user. That's why people play games, see whether or not they're reliable. They play games because they want to find out a bit more. It's like a puzzle. It's like a mystery story. You throw something out there. It's like I have this. I made up this acronym called SMART, and I'm thinking about why do women play games? And SMART is for strength. Women are looking for strength in men when they play games. Is that person going to show me how strong he is, whether it's through character, whether it's through his strength? How is he going to react to the game? Some women, they say they're going to call you and they don't call you back. Is that person going to start ranting and raving or shouting or not call you at all or not speak to you again? How are they going to react? A lot of the games depend on how that person reacts or doesn't react. Masculinity, M for masculinity. How is that man going to show you his masculine side in the game? Acceptance, understanding how it happens, what happens with the game playing, because everybody does it, male and female, and whether or not they take it personally. Reliability, is he going to be her rock? Is he going to pursue her? Is he going to continue to pursue her? How long will he pursue her for? Test, it's usually a test of endurance. Are you who you claim you are? And a lot of times when people test both male and female, it's to find out if that person is who they say they are. If you have a situation where, say for example, a man wants to know whether or not you like them or how much you like them, and they come over and they say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go up and see my ex-girlfriend. We're just friends. There's nothing in it. We just chat. But I'm going to go up there and I'm going to spend the weekend over that side. Some people say that, you know. Some men say that to see how you're going to react. Now, you can become a bunny boiler. You can say, oh, you're going up there. How do I know you're not going to sleep with her? How do I know what's going on? Nah, if you go up there, I'm not talking to you anymore. Or you can just say, okay, then fine. Just let me know you got up there safe. The way that guy is testing your reaction, it might be a valid reaction, it might not. It depends how that woman perceives it, whether or not that woman susses that it's a game. A lot of times, women have done sus when men are playing their games. I think those games that women play are normally the same old games, and men have sussed out their games as well. So neither games are really, they're both a waste of time, a waste of energy, and they're just not worth the paper they're written on. So games shouldn't really come into it. But sometimes with men, it's habit forming. It's a habit. With women, it's instinct. So, you know, you just can't get away from it sometimes. I don't think it's meant to be dishonest. I don't think it's meant to be harmful. I think it's just something that people use to find out more about an individual. But like I said, if the person's cottoned on to the fact that you're playing a game, you're not going to get the right outcome and you're not going to get the right results. So it's a waste of time. So some people play games just because they're bored. They just decide, okay, I'm going to, I feel too comfortable in this relationship. You know what? I'm going to up the ante a little bit. I'm going to tell her that I'm going to go away for a week, or I'm going to tell her that I'm not coming home tonight, just to see what she says. You know what I mean? Some people play silly little games and they're not good because, even if you want to say, oh, I was only messing around, you've already kind of planted suspicion in that woman's mind. And she's going to think, okay, it's because of the way she reacted why you've changed your mind, as opposed to realizing that you were actually just trying to play a game, trying to get a reaction. So sometimes these games don't work and they don't end up well. So a lot of men think that women play games because they don't respect them. So does that mean when men play games with women that they don't respect women? I don't think it's got anything to do with respect. Like I said, I think it's a weeding process to find out whether or not the person matches up with who they want and whether the person is who they say they are. And really, I think games are there for reassurance, because when people play games, what are they really doing? They're looking for reassurance. If somebody says, look, I'm not going to be able to see you later, and you say, okay, they're going to think, oh, bloody hell, she doesn't care. But if you was to say, oh, I was really hoping to see you later, or do you have to go? And then that person's going to think, oh, well, she really likes me. Sometimes games, that person ain't going nowhere. But sometimes games are just there to get that little bit of reassurance. Does that person really like me as much as I like her? But if you're playing games, it's not productive. All you've got to say to that person is, I'd like to see you later. You must stop testing, because it doesn't work. And then you end up thinking, oh, she doesn't care, when she's only saying that because she's sus that you're testing her. So you're not getting the result that you want. That's all I'm saying. So why do people play games? To get a feeling of belonging. Does she check for me? Sometimes it's validation. Sometimes it gives them a feeling of gratification when they get the response that they want, especially if somebody doesn't know that they're being tested. Psychological games. It's like it feels, that people are rewarded. They feel powerful when they play games. Sometimes people play games by going no contact. That is irritating. You send a text to somebody and they decide, oh, well, they're not going to respond to you. And the first day you think, oh, maybe they're busy. Second day, maybe their phone ain't working. Third day, Maybe maybe they've gone away. Fourth day. Oh, I wonder if they're okay. I wonder if they're in hospital. I wonder if something's happened. I wonder if they're in an accident. Fifth day. Oh, I'm really getting worried. You start calling. They don't pick up. That's time they're playing a game, you know. And by the fifth or the sixth day or by the weekend, you're like, bloody hell, I think something's happened. You start ringing, a friend or whatever. Have you heard from so and so? Oh yeah, I saw him. Well, he must be okay. He came up on WhatsApp, or he sent a message to me or something. So then you kind of feel relieved, but then you think, so why isn't that person contacting me then? And then on the next day, that person contacts you. Oh hi, babes, as though nothing's happened. Oh, I was a bit worried about you. Oh really? Why were you worried? Well, I hadn't heard from you. Oh, I've been busy doing A, B, C, D, and E. And you see, when people play games like that, all it does is turn the other person off because they're thinking, okay, you've had a whole week. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not in an accident. You're playing with my emotions. And it can turn someone off. So you're playing a game to see if someone's interested in you, and all it does is turn them off. So you have to know what you're doing. And that works both ways. Sometimes people play games to provoke jealousy. Have you ever been in these relationships where you get women who are talking about exes, or they're talking about men and all that one is really nice, or they put themselves in a position that will prompt a reaction from another man, or you get men who are always talking about their exes and talking about how great they got on with their exes, and if they see a woman walking down the street, they're craning their neck looking at the woman and all that kind of stuff, just to get a reaction, just to see if you're jealous. It's not necessary because it's artificial, and it's based on an artificial situation. So, and nothing's worse when people flirt with the opposite sex. Oh, when I was in America, I went out with this guy, lot younger than me, really younger than me. But anyway, um, I'd always had that kind of feeling that I didn't feel too secure with him because he was so much younger than me. But what he used to do was any time we was on the train, I mean, it's funny now. He'd look at these girls and say, "Oh man, look at her. Isn't she lovely?" And he was saying it deliberately to wind me up to get a reaction, and it would always work. I used to get so peed off. And I don't know if it would make well. I don't think somebody in my age group would have played such silly games. But he was a wind up merchant, and he would do it deliberately. You know, he was really a nice guy. But that was one of the things that really peed me off. And I don't know if he was doing it as a wind up merchant, because he was a wind up merchant, or whether it was to see if I was interested in him or to see if I was jealous or whatever it was. But it worked. I used to flip and tell him to behave himself and stop being so bloody disrespectful. So, how many people like you? I really like you. Trying to get something out of you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some people they're telling people how many people like them, how many admirers they have, how many women are after them, as though you're supposed to feel privileged that they've picked you and all that kind of rubbish. So yeah, people play all kinds of mind games to get a reaction. And a lot of it, like I said, is just for reassurance. They feel insecure, they're not too sure whether or not you want them, or they're not too sure where they stand with you. So sometimes they think that's going to help them answer some questions. The thing is, it's not playing fair, is it? Because when you're playing games, especially if the other person hasn't cottoned on, you're the only person who knows that a game is being played. And that's not fair. And in any game you play, both parties are supposed to be clear about the instructions and be clear about the rules of the game. So when one person is playing a game and the other person isn't, that is not fair. That's not right. And I don't believe you're going to get a good outcome with that. So when a partner finds out you're game playing, they can use it against you. Sometimes it's learned behavior. So you need to change the behavior. If it's something you're so used to doing, you know, you're quite addicted to it. You've fallen into that game playing mode. You just feel as though you need to play a game to get a reaction or to get a rise out of someone. Then you really have to check your behavior and address your insecurities. Why do you feel insecure about the person that you're with? Is it something in their behavior that's making you feel insecure, or is it something to do with you? Do you need to kind of address some inner demons? And if you do, look into it. You know, it's not always the other person. Sometimes it could be both of you. But just look into it and address why you are reacting. An attempt to overcome perceived obstacles. Oh yeah, you know, you have this game where people pretend they're not interested in you. Have you ever been in that situation? People pretend that they're not interested in you, and so they try to play hard to get, and they don't return your calls, or they go on like they don't want to speak to you when really inside that they do. I don't know how that's supposed to work to their advantage when you do that. If you like somebody, you like them. Why would you pretend you don't? How do you think that's going to get you? I don't know if many of you saw the 40-day rule. Was it a 40-day rule? It was a film where this woman said that she wasn't going to have sex with somebody for 40 days. I think it was 40 days or 40 weeks or something. Anyway, whatever it was. Anyway, she met somebody who she really liked. And that guy didn't know there was a 40-year rule. No, not a 40-year, a 40-day rule or whatever it was. And they were really, really attracted. And every time they got nearly intimate, she had to remember she was on this 40-day rule. Anyway, in the end, he found out that he was on a 40-day rule and he got totally peed off. And he got angry and he walked off because he felt as though the relationship had been contrived. And what he thought he felt for her and what he thought she felt for him wasn't real, because she was clinging to this ideal not to have sex within 40 days. So that's what I'm saying. It was a game and it turned out really badly. Of course, as in TV, everything works out wonderfully well and they end up reasoning it over and getting together and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, games don't work. So, games are an attempt to overcome perceived obstacles, e.g., you think someone is going to say they can't see you, so you say you are not available, hoping that he or she will say they are available. Yeah, you get some people, you get that kind of situation where somebody's preempting. Somebody thinks, oh, that person's not going to be available, so therefore I'm going to tell her I'm not available. And then hopefully, if she really wants to see me, she will tell me she is available. And then I can say I am available. I mean, it's a load of crap, because that woman's going to say, so I thought you weren't available though. And you're going to say, oh, well, I wasn't available, but now I am, or something came up. Then it's going to look like you're lying. And it's just not worth it, because all it does, games create suspicion. They make you look like a liar. And you never get a good result. Never. And especially if you're in a long-term relationship. If it's one of these relationships where you're just having fun and, you're just kicking it, that's totally different. But if you're in a long-term relationship and you're playing games, all it's going to do is create suspicion and doubt and lack of trust. That's all it's going to do. You can't predict the future. A lot of people, they play games because they're trying to predict the future. Okay, if I do this, I'm going to see if she does that. Or if I say this, I'm going to see if she says that. And it doesn't work, especially if that woman or that man knows you're playing a game. So you're not going to get the reaction that you want. And you could lose out big time, especially if you genuinely care about that person. So a lot of it is playing with the imagination. But like I said, don't take it personally. Everybody has their issues. Some people have larger issues than others. but everybody has their issues and everybody's trying to navigate life the best way they know how. And sometimes people do feel they need to do it through games. But all I'm saying is don't make it into a big deal. A lot of people, they say, I can't stand it. The game playing, I can't stand it. I've said it in the past, I can't stand the game playing. Now, I identify it's a game playing and I play them at their own game. You know what I mean? And game playing can be played not only in romantic relationships. People play games all the time. Family can play games. It doesn't even have to be a male-female relationship. Anyone can play games with people's minds, trying to get a reaction. But if I suss it's a game, I don't play along with it. So they're not going to get the result that they want from me. So that's all I'm saying. I don't take it personally. I know it's their insecurity. I know they're looking for reassurance. They're looking for validation. That's normally what it is. They want to feel approved. So what is the objective? Challenge. Sometimes it's to prove he or she cares. Puzzle. Can I trust him or her? Conflict. If I cause an argument, how will she or he react? Are they going to explode? That would tell me a lot about her or him. It's a lot to sacrifice to find out that kind of information. You can find out that information naturally. Supposing you never have an argument. I mean, it's natural to have an argument, but suppose you don't and you create one and it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, just because you're playing your games. Sometimes it's whether you try to see whether or not that person is on your side. Does she or he have my back? So you'll create a game to determine whether or not that person has your back. So what is the motivation? It's about building confidence in the relationship and reassurance. That's usually what games are about. People play games just to seek reassurance and to seek whether or not that person is really interested in building a relationship. So what else? A lot of it can backfire. I think you should be honest and ask for what you want. It takes a lot of confidence to ask for what you want in relationships. A lot of us have been taught not to ask for what you want. A lot of us have been taught just to get on with it and work things out. And sometimes, my mum always used to say, never ask anybody for anything. If somebody's going to do something for you, they'll do it. And it doesn't work like that. It's not reality. I remember when my mum gave me that advice. I remember I was renting a room. And I said to my mum, Mum, I'm really worried because, that person isn't giving, no, it wasn't, well, yeah. I said, that person isn't giving me any money. And, it's the third week now. I should have got some money by now. And she goes, oh, don't worry about it, Myrna. Then we'll give you money. They're not going to live there for free. That's what she said, Don't worry. And, like 6 weeks ago, and then she's like, don't worry, then we'll give it to you when them have it. I'm like, no, Mum. In my head, I'm not going to say that to my mum, but in my head, I'm thinking, no, man, this person is taking the pee. How can you live anywhere for free? So I decided, no, this ain't good enough. I am going to ask that person. I'm going to speak to that person direct and say, look, yes, we're friends, but you're staying here. I've got the space. You've got your own room. You've got your own facilities. So therefore, I need some kind of compensation. I need some money. And, sometimes money is the hardest thing to bring up, especially among friends, especially among family, because for some people, some reason, some friends, so-called friends, think you're supposed to be doing them a favour. Some people think, oh, because you're friends, they don't have to pay and they can get away with it. So, and sometimes even that is a game to see how much they can get away with. Some people do that. Some people won't give you anything to see what they can get away with. I know somebody who says when they take a woman out for a meal or a drink, they reckon they make that woman, they won't pay for that woman for at least 2 or 3 times or something, to see what type of woman she is. I mean, for Christ's sake, how ridiculous is that? What is that going to prove? That woman, she might pay for her way for the first 3 times or whatever. She might not even have an issue with it. But I tell you something, it's going to tell her something about you. So these games that people play, and to see what you can get away with, whether or not you can get away without paying for something, or whether you can get away with living with somebody for free, and how long you can get away with it for. It's all a part of the game playing. And it's not good because it backfires. Especially when you know that you have the capacity to contribute. And then what does it prove? The fact that you're living there free and she hasn't come up and said anything to you, does that mean that she's a nice woman? Does that mean she's a stupid woman? Does that mean, what does it tell you? You don't know what's going on in that woman's mind. So, I think no gameplay. Just be honest, upfront, state your truth. I like you. I don't like you. I want to see you. I don't want to see you. How much do you want? Just be honest. So, why do people play games? To get attention, to get a reaction, to get reassurance, to protect themselves. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with adverse childhood experiences, depending on how they grew up, whether or not they were nurtured, whether or not they their needs were met. And sometimes if they weren't, they seek it in other people and they look for that reassurance. And they look through that reassurance through playing games. Like I said, don't take it personally. So, can seem like unnecessary behaviour when you don't know the end goal. I'm going out with my friends. They might say that to see whether or not you're a bunny boiler, a psycho. If you say, oh, that's okay, they might think, oh my God, she doesn't care. Then they might say, oh, they were hoping you would, I hope you would be spending time with me. But I appreciate that you need time with your friends. That would be the ideal response if they're testing you. When they're testing you and saying they're going out with their mates. But like I said, depending on the individual, depending on their past history, depending on their relationships, depending on whatever, the response is going to be different. It's not going to teach you anything about that person, really. And how do you know that the day you're playing your games, that person hasn't had a bad hair day? Or that guy hasn't had an accident or an argument at work? Or something, that's going to make that person feel more vulnerable or less vulnerable, and give them a more reactive response than they would if things were all okay. You don't know what's going on in that person's life at that particular time when you're playing your silly games. And that's why I've said, no more silly games, please, because that's what they are. They're silly games. And sometimes it's just because people are looking for Mr. or Miss Perfect. They're looking for flaws. They're looking for attitudes and reactions. If I do this, how is that person going to react? If they react this way, oh, I don't like that. Oh, yeah, that one's behaving a bit dodgy. I don't think I'm going to like her. Or I don't think I'm going to like him. I don't like the way he's responded to that. So they're making judgments. They're using it to judge you. They're playing games to judge you. And it could be on a full set of circumstances. So, the people who play games have either been hurt, betrayed, abused, require validation. But we all know games require interaction. They're usually goal-oriented, and it always has to involve someone else. You can't play a game by yourself. So if you get caught up in the game, you're becoming complicit in the game. So sometimes women use sex to control men as a part of a game. They get to a certain point, get the man all wound up, and then they say, oh, no, I don't want to do it now. No, I don't. I'm sorry to get you so flustered. I didn't mean to. And that time, the man is like, what? Remember that Eddie Murphy? He says if you make a woman reach an orgasm, you've got her for life. So it's the same way women manipulate men. You know, they're trying to make him reach a peak and try to, at that point, while he's kind of in his most vulnerable state, they start making some demands. Oh boy, you have to laugh, don't you? Anyway, people who play games usually have low self-esteem, need to exert power, trying to protect themselves. So we've got all of that. Resolution, don't react to games. Observe them, know that they're happening, because a lot of times you can tell when games are going on. You can usually pick it up. Set standards for yourself and boundaries. Like I said, games require interaction, a goal, another person who they can influence. So just make sure you don't get caught up in all of that. You don't have to be that partner in the game. And they can only be successful in playing games if the other person is playing the game with them. So you can refuse to play. And game playing is a weeding out process. So, yeah, just look at it as that. Just look at it as another part of grooming your relationship, trying to find out a little bit more about the person. And look at it as nothing bigger than that. If you don't like the way it makes you feel, all you've got to do is opt out. Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable in a relationship, you can talk about it. If it persists, you can opt out. You don't have to sit with it. If you've got one of these partners that are forever playing games, you don't have to stay in that situation, because it's destructive and it's playing with your mind and it's just not necessary, and it's just highlighting the insecurities. And when somebody's insecure, anything can happen. You just don't know how you don't even know how they're going to react. And when they don't get the right response to a game that they're playing that they don't know that they're playing a game, how are they going to react when it doesn't happen, when it doesn't play out the way they want it to? So, that's all I've got to say. No more silly games, peeps. Bye-bye.